Welcome everyone to season 2, episode 3 of the Way You're Thinking podcast. I'm Eric,
I'm Vince.
and today we got another exciting show for you guys. We're going to talk about a few different things, from the Danileigh Yellowbone comment that was controversial this week to a doctor stealing some COVID vaccine doses, as well as why you can't date and race someone at the same time. So let's jump right into it. So for the first hit the brakes or carry on topic, I want to know if you saw the verses between Keyshia Cole and Ashanti.
I saw a snippet of that.
Yeah, me too. I didn't see the whole thing. But one of the things I want to talk about was not the performance itself, but Shad Moss, aka Bow Wow. He sent a comment saying, he used to be involved with Keyshia Cole, and he sent a comment because she was late to the verses.
Yeah.
To Keyshia Cole, and said like she was never that late when I would call her over. So he got put on blast for that. I think rightfully so. But do you want to carry on, or do you want to hit the brakes on that one?
I think with that, I want to carry on. It's a little messy.
All right, yeah, definitely messy. Certain things you just don't do,
Yeah.
Don't kiss and tell. But okay, the next topic for hit the brakes carry on is former leader Martin Luther King Jr. He obviously his birthday is a big thing in America. It's a recognized national holiday. But one thing that it's funny is that like this year, especially after everything that's transpired, 4 years after Trump, the Capitol riots, all that's been going on, a few people were called out for posting quotes honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Despite supporting Trump, like Ted Cruz, Ivanka Trump, Mitch McConnell, Michael Pence. So it's like, okay, how are you going to support a man that is openly hateful and divisive, but yet on Dr. King's birthday you want to, talk about him and show honor? So do you want to hit the brakes or carry on in that one?
I want to hit the brakes on that.
Okay.
And
what's on your mind?
The reason is because I find it very hypocritical, considering Republicans have recently supported an individual with no respect or appreciation for Black people, or any other ethnicity that truly fought for what they deserve. And I kind of cycled that into the Flint water crisis. So basically, when that was occurring, we all know what happened with that. It was found out that the state funding, which was nearly $390 million, was improperly spent by the Republican state governor at the time, who was Rick Snyder. And there was allegations of environmental racism, which in itself is a disgrace to our society over that whole situation. And basically, these things should not be happening. The list can go on and on with the things African Americans have had to pay for. And there's literally no reason at all for any of it. But while I just feel like these Republicans just seem to continue turning the leaf of the page and getting lost in other chapters of the story, while horrible things are continuing to happen in society. And it just seems like the only reason African Americans are helped is because they're caught with the majority. Like, let's take a look at COVID-19. The only reason why we're getting a piece of the vaccine is because we were caught with the majority. Areas that are predominantly African American, they would not get the full support of the government. They would basically be stepped over and forgotten. And because we're all basically caught up in the same pandemic, that's the only reason why you see us getting any type of support. And I just feel like it's a problem because these things are quickly ignored and suffocated. And Martin Luther King worked very hard for peace and equality. And he worked very hard for the white man to understand he is not the only man. And he also worked hard because he was tired of the childish games of my color is better than yours. Us as African Americans, we're not vehicles with different specs or features. We're not the difference between a PS4 and a PS5. And we are not the benefit of home ownership versus living in an apartment. We're human beings made up of the same anatomy. We're in the race of survival and equality, and ultimately on Earth, trying to make the best of our time here, just like anyone else. So I feel like shame on individuals who cannot respect what MLK stood for, feeling like they deserve the right to post what he fought for, and wanting them to listen to and understand. Because if you're going to post someone's quote, you need to respect the quote that you're posting. Me personally, I'm not going to go on Google, pull up a Gandhi quote and not respect what Gandhi did for India. That just doesn't make sense. So the fact that these people are quoting what this man worked so hard to even say or even get a page on Google for is kind of crazy to me.
I think you made an interesting point. I didn't even think about that, but that's the reason why they move so swiftly. It's like whenever something directly affects us,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how that usually takes a lot more time, right? But now that we're all caught up in it, whether you're black, white, Indian, Asian, Latin, whether you're Hindu, Christian, Jewish, like everybody's caught up in this thing, you know? So that's
Yeah.
why we're seeing this swift response to it with the vaccine and the science behind it and everything. And I know some people, may listen and think, oh, well, you guys just always make it about race. That's not what it is. This is just factual. Like you
It's the
can look at
facts.
so
Yeah.
many things in history and just see that, I mean, like you said, Flint directly. We already know what type of community that is, and
Mm-hmm.
look how it's still an issue. Even when you look at Hurricane Katrina, that's a widely known thing. Where George W. Bush was criticized for it because it's like, and that's why Kanye has this famous statement where he said like the president doesn't care about black people. George Bush doesn't care about black people because they were sending helicopters to get people that were more affluent out there help, but the rest of us were
Yeah.
just out there drowning and dying, and in such large numbers because we were directly affected by that. It's
We had to
just
wait for
it's
the
it's
Red
sad.
Cross.
So yeah, for those who don't know, Red Cross only 15% of what you send, of what everyone sends to them, goes to those in need. Actually, the rest of it is for the business to line their pockets. So I think that actually, I think Red Cross is actually the reason why so many organizations are nonprofit and why they feel as though they're obligated to say they're a nonprofit organization because they know about the corruption of it just going to the employees and whatnot. I mean, of course, people need to get paid, but I think that's why there's such a widespread distrust within that type of thing where you're donating, and why people just kind of like roll their eyes when someone comes to them talking about can you donate. It's like that's a big role. That plays a big role in that.
Yeah.
So, but that showed in Katrina, where there's just so many people that need help, and only certain ones are getting helped, and so that's why there's a widespread distrust with that. But yeah, I like how you connected that to Flint. That's a direct, perfect example that definitely is applicable in this sense. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that one.
They need to hear the truth.
All right.
Just because you guys forgot about it doesn't mean we forgot about it.
So for the next hit the brakes carry on topic, I want to talk about something that was a big controversy this week. For those who don't know, Danileigh, she's a singer, up and coming still, I would say, and she has a song out. I believe the song is called Yellow Bone, and it's like that yellow bone. That's what he want. And so for those who don't know, she's been dating DaBaby for a minute now, and so a lot of people were going at her on social media about talking about being a yellow bone, and obviously, okay. So first, I should ask, do you want to hit the brakes or carry on?
I want to carry on from that just because it's something that there's just a lot going on with that topic right now,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
this is definitely not a WAP. This is like something completely different from that. And there's
Right.
so many, yeah, there's so many opinions with this thing. It's like I'd rather just stay away from it for now.
Okay, I'm gonna just speak my piece on it real quick. It won't take me long, but I think it's interesting. I think it shows insecurities. For the like, a lot of people know about colorism, so that's something that's only within it's strict to the black community, where light skin is better, dark skin is not as attractive. Like it's a shame because that's not true. Like I think all black is beautiful, whether it's light, dark, mid tone.
Facts.
I think it's crazy that in this day and age, people still have a problem with it. Where so people had a problem with her saying like Yellowbone, that's what he want. But I think they took that as her saying like Yellowbone is the only attractive thing, or it's actually not even Yellowbone. Yellow skin is red bone, but it's like I feel like it shows insecurities of like, oh well, I'm darker, so I don't want anybody to play into this stereotype that I'm not as pretty because you're saying you're extra pretty. That's not the case. It's like let people have their preferences. Like if she's dating DaBaby, so like if DaBaby likes light skinned women, let him like light skinned women. Like
Yeah.
if you're white and you like black, or black you like white, or Latino and you like Asian, or Asian and you like Indian, like you like what you like. We're not anybody to speak on someone's preference. Um, just like for example, when with the like Black Lives Matter movement, just because you're happy to be black, doesn't mean you hate white people, all white people, or Asian
Yeah.
people. Like you can be proud of something for who you are. Now, I will say it's like a double edged sword because it's also something you have to take into the context of a country and the society you live in. So
Mhm.
in this country, which has a very like racist history, obviously from slavery to now, if you were to say, "Oh, I love being white," if it ain't white, it ain't right. Like that's obviously controversial. Like I wouldn't necessarily say, definitely like boast about that because like there's a lot of history to account for that would make you look insensitive. But if you're happy to be black, don't look at it as like, oh, that's a double standard. Why can you be happy to be black and I can't be happy to be white? It's not like that. I think you have to take it case by case and look at it at the context. So I think the Danileigh thing was just blown out of proportion personally.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to I feel like I just want to leave that alone because like
Okay.
there's so much controversy with that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you though. Like it's people need to just understand that this is her opinion. This is based on what she sees every day while being
Right.
with the baby. So obviously,
Mm-hmm.
she's proud of her relationship. Obviously, so she decided to go in the studio and just play around. Make a quick song. But
Mm-hmm.
I am going to carry on from it. But I'm just going to add that this is something that goes on all the time with celebrities, especially when it's a guy that a lot of females are attracted to. And a lot of females, obviously, if they're attracted to the person, they're going to be upset that this person is with a specific individual. And then on top of
Mm-hmm.
that, they're already mad. So if they hear a song like that, it's going to make them even more upset. So it's a fire that doesn't stop getting fueled. So yeah, it's very
Right.
controversial.
Let's say so for the next hit the brakes carry on topic, I want to talk about how it came out. It was reported that 21 GOP officials were at the January 6th Capitol riot. That's a whole lot of people that
Yeah, it
are,
is.
elected government officials to partake in something that was such a disrespect to democracy and the state of this nation that we're at right now, man. Like 21 people, that's a lot. Like those people were elected to their position, and they're gonna
Yep.
partake in such barbaric behavior. So did you want to hit the brakes or carry on that?
I wanted to carry on from it, mainly because I feel as though this whole capital situation, it feels like it's no different from someone speaking about a conspiracy theory. It's like even though we know that the conspiracy is there, it could be plausible, it could be possible. There's really nothing we could really do about it because we're not getting the majority to make the big play. And
Mm-hmm.
even though a lot of things are being revealed about what happened that day, the majority still hasn't made the big play that we need. So I just want to carry on from that because I feel like the Capitol is a story that's still ongoing. It's still, I mean, the FBI is claiming that there's an investigation going on. So I'm going to give them, benefit of the doubt. But ultimately, this whole Capitol thing is an ongoing story. So even though I'm going to carry on from it today, it's definitely something we should come back to because this is
Okay.
something that is not going to get off the hook for a while.
Got you. Yeah, totally agree. For the last hit the brakes carry on topic, I want to talk about how there's been a lot of there were a lot of I'm glad I can say word past tense. There were a lot of vaccine shortages under Trump's presidency.
Mm-hmm.
We always know he talks in superlatives. That's like his number one language. Bigly, the best ever, the
Yep.
greatest. Everything's the greatest under him, and so according to him. So the fact that he even talked about vaccines having the quickest ever, and the most available to him, and then we had shortages while he was in office. Now, yesterday, this is actually a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Biden and his Biden and his cabinet, his administration rather, purchased 200 million doses. And if people actually follow the science and get vaccinated, that should vaccinate everyone by the end of the summer. They were saying. So that's actually a fact. It's not just Trump on his empty promises. So I wanted to know if you want to hit the brakes to carry on that.
I want to hit the brakes on that,
Okay.
and
It's on your mind.
mainly because I feel like this is Trump we're talking about. So, number one,
Yeah.
Trump is like I feel like if Webster were to redo the dictionary, they should put his picture next to selfishness because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like he's just a selfish guy. And people could say what they want to say. This is my opinion. I feel like Trump was not doing anything for the people of the United States, and he most likely felt as though being president would bring him more supporters for his business ventures afterwards. And like I said, this is just my opinion, but I feel like when you do the math, everything that involved assisting the American people was constantly ignored, and anything that benefited Trump was executed promptly. So when he wanted soldiers and hell to rain on Black Lives Matter supporters and protesters, it happened within hours. You know, it happened just like that before you could even think about it. And when he wanted to airstrike the commander, forgive me if I'm not saying his name correctly, but I believe it was Qasem Soleimani of the Quds Force in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. He did it. And even though it was said that he was targeting several U.S. embassies, and although certain things occurring within the country are the president's responsibility, it's just the fact that he almost started a war while most individuals were not even educated on the situation after or even before it happened, you know? And it's like as soon as Biden got into office, he requested that the former individual in charge of the vaccine rollout, I believe his name was Monsef Saloy. You guys don't quote me on that. Well, don't quote me on the spelling of that. But he made him submit his resignation, basically. And while Trump was in office, and I'm quoting an article I found on BBC.com from January 22nd of this year. So the daily average for the week before Mr. Trump left office was less than 900,000 vaccines. And since then, this figure has risen above 1 million doses. And, you know, also to change the elements, our new president made it clear that he is hopeful of achieving 1.5 million doses a day, while first focusing on the goal of 1 million a day. So ultimately, we went from someone with millions of secrets and a plan to ruin the American people to someone who vocalizes and actually proves that change can happen. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to pick sides. I'm saying it because, just like we said before, we don't only speak on color, we speak on facts. So if you look at the facts, while this man was in office, everything that happened, everything that we spoke about, you know, the past couple minutes, Flint, Black Lives Matter, MLK, everything that has to do with, you know, certain demographic locations or certain groups of people, certain ethnicities, a lot of things were ignored. Let's talk about what happened in Puerto Rico when they lost their power supply for a number of months. Because people were suffering. Not once did they hear from the Trump administration. You know, so right. A lot of things that were supposed to be done by our president weren't even thought about. And ultimately, us as the American people, we suffered. When COVID-19 first happened, Japanese, Chinese people, they suffered. If you looked like you were from China, you suffered. You know, and then it moved on. It moved down to African Americans, and then it moved down to the majority.
All right.
So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you brought the facts, as which is which we always do, because a lot of things that were, you know, happening under the Trump administration were just words, empty promises, and things of the like. I feel like we're going to see a total switch now. There's going to be facts. Biden's not going to speak on something that he can't back up, or at least have the good intention to carry out. So that's good. Something to look forward to. So for the What in the World topic today, I wanted to talk about a complex story that I was reading. And basically this Texas doctor stole a short amount of doses of the COVID-19 vaccine and started administering it to 9 different people. So, you know, friends and family. And according to him, he didn't want to waste them. Now, that's just something, like, I think that's just a case of he got caught red-handed and he didn't know what to say, because that's not even logical. Like, with shortages being reported on the news every single day, what makes you, one individual, think that certain doses are going to go to waste? Like, you just didn't think of what to say when they caught you. Like, I thought that was just the crazy thing. But so I think overall it comes to, I mean, something like this isn't that surprising, because it comes down to free will, right? Nothing's physically stopped this man from taking the vaccines, but you would think, as the oath he took when he became a doctor, that he would act in good conscience and put others before himself. But he didn't do that here. I think this pandemic in general, though, just shows the human flaws, human errors that we're always going to have to account for, like dishonesty, selfishness. I think those things we see those every day, but the pandemic is just amplifying them. So in this case, he was dishonest about that, you know, he was going to put others before himself. He was selfish by actually going to steal it and then give it to other people. like I said, this is just one of those platforms that things are being amplified and is already a problem, which is human flaw. But I want to get your thoughts on it as well.
Um, I definitely agree with everything you said. Is the pandemic has definitely been a landslide as far as human behavior. In the beginning, we were all together as one. We were in it together, and we were in it to understand what what we need to do in order to move forward from it. So in the beginning, things were very rocky. No one had an N95 mask in their home. They felt like it was the end of the world if they didn't have it. And we all know the rest. We all know the story of how the pandemic basically evolutionized the world, number one, and how it was just unheard of territory. This is something that was random, number one. It's something that could have been avoided. Well, not 100%, but maybe partially, if the right steps were taken in the beginning, when certain people in office or even certain politicians actually heard about this thing breaking out and the possibility of it heading to the U.S. These certain people could have stopped certain airports from operating. Just little things because I feel like personally, if you have an airport, you have a building. Yes, it's going to be a lot of people going in and out of there, but it's cheaper to literally monitor the people coming out of those airplanes than it is to monitor the majority of people. So if you know that you have a site that's going to be the host of this thing and actually bring it from country to country and then, affect the majority, you can regulate it. So now moving forward to this whole doctor situation, in his mind, he's thinking about people he loves. He's thinking about people that he cares for. He's trying to regulate the situation before he has to bury someone that he actually cares about. So even though it was something that was very wrong for him to do, at the end of the day, he was doing what any human would do if they were put in this kind of situation. You see people suffering left and right. You see, look, I don't even have enough hands to count how many doctors that we lost because of this thing. Because number one, in the beginning, no one really knew what this thing could do. And then number two, the emotional factor of it. There was actually a very well-known and loved doctor in New York who took her life because she couldn't deal with seeing the amount of ambulances dropping off these people, the dead bodies that were in the trucks with the coolers on them. Everything that was happening during the summertime when this thing first happened, it had an emotional impact on a lot of people. A lot of people took their lives as a result. So even though this doctor was wrong for what he did, he did what any human would have done if they were under that kind of pressure, especially being a doctor at that, and having a vaccine, having people you love and care about. He did what any human would do.
Yeah, I would. If I had to disagree with one thing, though, I would just say like maybe if someone was sick, or like maybe if they had like serious respiratory issues, then I could see maybe all right. I could see in that context maybe I'm gonna just snag one, just so that way this person doesn't have to suffer because they're more susceptible. But if my family is perfectly healthy, fortunately at that point, I don't think I would cross that boundary of let me just cut the line and get this, because then I feel like that's just you just don't do that. Like I feel like you're kind of like disrespecting the oath you took as a doctor. That's just my personal opinion, but I see what you mean though. Like it's kind of like my favorite show of all time is Breaking Bad, right? It's kind of similar to that, where it's like it's not right to become to start cooking meth and be a drug dealer. But on that same token, his life was on like a time clock. Like he had a certain amount of time to live, basically. So he's thinking, I got to do what I got to do to provide for my family. I think it's the same exact thing. You can understand, in a high pressure situation that someone's in, and they may act out of character. So I could see that in this case for sure.
Yeah. So I would say, it's a high pressure situation that's making him do that, even though he took the oath as a doctor to protect his clients and protect people that he represents. Yes, but this man was under pressure, and I'm pretty sure
for sure.
He saw people dying left and right that he couldn't even help. So he wanted to risk it all to help his family and friends. So
for sure, I can't knock that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm sorry. You want to start with your hear me out topic?
Yeah. So for today's hear me out topic that I have is basically why it is not good to be a best friend and a parent at the same time. Do you have anything that you want to add to that before we begin?
Nah, just like you said, being a best friend and parent is definitely a bad thing. Wouldn't recommend it just because, like, I mean, it's something you and I talk about all the time. Like, we've talked about it on the podcast and
Yeah.
private conversations. It's like, you have to make your kid respect you. At the end of the day, that's more important than them liking you. I'm not saying, to have your kid hate you or, be terrified of you or something like that, like scared to leave, be
Yeah.
in their house with you. But at the same time, the whole point of discipline is to make your child think, okay, I want this reward. I want something that I like, but is it going to be worth it if I get caught and have to face the consequences? That's literally the whole point of discipline. So if your kid doesn't look at you as like, oh, they're going to make me face consequences, then it's kind of like anything goes, and that's how the kid's
Yeah.
going to act. So I think you see that a lot of times with parents these days, where they just want their kid to like them and be best friends with them, and so they just forego the whole part of it where they have to demand their respect. So I definitely don't recommend that for anybody to do that, because you see it in public all the time. You see in stores, people be cussing their parents out, throwing stuff at their
Mm-hmm.
parents, talking to them all types of crazy. I wouldn't have a home to go to because I would be like scared of my mom, like if I did that as a kid, So yeah, that's my piece on it.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah. That's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking to hear. So, me growing up, just like you, there are many situations where I would do something wrong, and my mom would have to be the person to put me in check or let me know what I did was wrong. So
Yep.
a lot. So I can kind of relate from the what I can kind of relate to, like, the side that got the discipline, got the talks that lasted for over 2 hours. Um,
Mm-hmm.
had like things in place, just had restrictions. And then as I got older, those restrictions started to pull back a little more. And you may just like me, have friends that you see that can do anything that they want to do. Hey, mom, can I go outside? Can I do this? Can I do that? They were always allowed to do those things. They were always allowed to be at the parties. They were always allowed to be wild. And when things happen at those parties, or they smoked for the first time, or anything happened, they would go to their parents, and their parents would give them a pat on the back for it. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those people, we know them now, and we're not gonna name any names, obviously, but we know the ones that got disciplined just like us. We know the ones um, who never got disciplined, just had a parent as the best friend. And in certain instances, I see these same individuals asking me for advice with certain things because they feel like life has no limitations, and they feel like, what's the point of following rules? Why not take a risk? And I'm not saying, like, a lot of people are going to say, hey, it's okay to take a business risk. I don't mean like business risks, because those are always a good thing to do. I mean, like, going out there, you see a red light that's taking too long, and you know just because you have somewhere to be, you feel like you're the most important person on the road. You just go through the light and you continue on with your day. Certain things that we do, we need to understand that there are negatives that can apply. And that entire stage where you grow up and you try to figure out the world around you, you need someone in your life who's going to be able to tell you, no, that's not right. Or, yeah, that's okay to do, but there are certain limitations. Like, it's okay if you turn that video game on, but you need to promise me you can read a book for at least 4 hours of the day after that. Play a game for 3 hours, read a book for 4 hours, and then eat dinner and get ready for bed. Like, it's okay for someone. It's okay for you to be in the driver's seat as a parent and tell your child that, versus, oh, play the video game all day, eat at 12 o'clock, and go to bed at 2. Go to bed at 2 in the morning. I don't care. Like, there's a difference in that, and it doesn't even sound right coming out of my mouth. And that's another reason why I feel like this is something that parents should take seriously. So it's
Yeah.
definitely not a good idea for you to try to be a best friend and a parent at the same time. You can love the hell out of your kid, you know,
Yeah.
but
They
don't.
respect you first,
Yeah,
though.
yeah. Let them get the respect going first. You make a certain face, they're supposed to know. Hey, I need to sit up straighter, or I need to
Yep.
not do what I'm about to do.
You know what time it is if you ain't sitting
Yeah,
up straight or whatever. You know, parent.
yeah,
It's a funny you say that because like some parents just have that look they give you, and you already know what time it is. You gotta get yourself together. You know, That's all it takes. Like people be scared to like spank their kids, and these days it's abuse if you spank your kid. But like sometimes you don't even have to do that. If you're so stern with demanding that respect, you won't have to lay a finger on your kid.
That's true.
I was spanked, and I think it helped me. But like for those who are terrified of doing that, like then make them respect you in another way. It's really that simple. And it's also funny that you said like we would see people we went to school with, and they just turn out differently because they didn't anything went in their household. And as a kid, someone in our position where we got disciplined more strictly, we would say, "Oh, well, this person doesn't have to, or that person." And I bet our parents said
That's
the
the
same
worst
thing.
thing
And
to do.
that's not my child. That's not my child. My mom always said to me all the time. I'd be like, "Oh, so and so, was allowed to stay out late, or so and so went out 2 nights in a row. Like, why can't I?" My mom wouldn't even let me finish the sentence. She would be like, "That's not my child. I'm not responsible for them." So, you basically just wasted your whole breath trying to like get an argument
Exactly.
out, but
Trying to get out of
just shot that down out the sky right away. Yeah. So just worry about yourself, and don't be. And I think that's why you and I are gonna make for great fathers, because I think when we have our kids, we're gonna know how important, how crucial it is that they respect us. We're not gonna just be like, oh, we want them to like us. Like this isn't high school. We're not worried about them being our friends. We want them to respect us, and we'll have fun. The fun will come. But
yeah, exactly.
They're gonna respect us first.
That's true.
Okay, and so for my Hear Me Out topic, I wanted to talk about something that I saw on one of my top 2 Instagram pages this week. So Justin LA Boy, it's him and Hoodville. Those are like my top 2 Instagram pages. They have like the funniest memes and quotes that are mad relatable. But
You said Hoodville?
Yeah, Hoodville. It started out as private, and then it became public, and now it's back to private. You gotta follow that one, bro. Like that's top 2. I'm telling you. So. On the Justin LA Boy page this week, he said you can't date someone and raise them at the same time. And I think that's something that's going to go over so many heads, and probably did go over so many heads, because I see that a lot of times. And I'm a person that speaks to a lot of people about relationship stuff. People come to me about relationship stuff. And it's just like, you see how first of all, I think it's a bad habit. I think it's a bad human habit to get involved with someone and just think to yourself, all right, I don't like X, Y, and Z about this person, but I'm going to change them. I'll take on this project. And for those who know me, I'm like a million times respectful towards women. So I'm not like a woman hater, what I'm about to say. But I see it more with women, where they'll look at guys, like some of them will look at us, and some of them have admitted to me that they'll look at us as like projects. They'll get involved with us, and they'll be like, okay, I'm going to change their behavior. They may have demonstrated all these other red flags, but I'm just going to ignore that and just change this gradually going forward. We're not projects. I mean, because it's like those X, Y, and Z things that you want to change about us. What if those things make us happy, bring us inner peace? What if it's something that is a response to trauma, or some disappointment that we went through in life, and that's why we're that way? Or what if it's just something that's not even a big deal, but you just don't like it as a preference? For you to take that onto yourself and say, I'm gonna change that. That's a pretty selfish thing to do. So you can't date someone and raise them at the same time, because we're not children. Even though we do things differently than you, and sometimes may act irresponsibly, but that's what humans do sometimes. But you can't raise us. Don't talk down to us like we're your child, because that's not going to make us want to stay in a relationship with you. But what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are honestly all over the place on this. So, first things first, if you're gonna date someone, obviously you're into that person for a reason. And me, I'm a believer in if you get with someone for the first time, you guys are dating or whatever, obviously throughout their entire dating period, you're asking yourself every time you meet up, what attracts me to this person? What do I actually like about this person? And where is this gonna go? A lot of things that happen are someone is with someone and they like everything about them, but then they move in together, or they start getting a little bit more closer, and they start, like you said, they figure out a little bit more about one another, and then they see things that they feel like they need to change or they want to change. All of us have been in relationships when we were 18 and 19 years old, so we know how that goes. We know how it feels to be with someone for years and then feel like they're gonna change, and then you start getting older, you start getting wiser, and nothing changes. So just to protect yourself in the end and protect yourself for years to come, I think it's better to kind of understand that you need to set the tone in the beginning, You need to set the expectations in the beginning, and both individuals need to be on the same train and getting to that equal destination. Because if that's not there, it's like right now, if you say you want to get a S class Benz and you're not making enough money to get that car, but you know what you need to do in order to start making more money, number one, and you know what you need to do to start putting money away to get the car, you're gonna focus on your plan, and then in the end, you're gonna have the car.
Mm-hmm.
Versus you start listening to what someone else told you, you forget about what you believe in, your morals, your ethics, and then you get the car. It has the highest interest rate, and you don't have any money in savings, and you still have that crazy job. You know, a lot of things are gonna start. It's gonna be a domino effect. A lot of things are gonna suffer as a result of you making that decision. So you're gonna be stuck in that job longer than you need to be because you're gonna need the hours to pay for the car. Number two, it's gonna be harder for you to get out of the vehicle because you have a higher interest rate than you would have gotten if you went through your plan. And three, you're gonna be stressed. So you're gonna be in the car. You're gonna think you're driving the car because it has a nice sound system and the ride is smooth, but you're gonna be miserable because you didn't follow what you truly believed in. So where I'm going with that is if you're gonna get into a relationship like that, where you're gonna leave everything that you believe in at the door to please someone else, you're gonna be stressed out, you're gonna be miserable, and you're gonna want out. So that's what I got from that.
Yeah. So date or raise. You can't do both. That's not gonna work out for you.
It's not.
But yeah, that's all I got to say. That wraps up this week's episode, season 2, episode 3 of the What You Thinking podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Eric.
I'm Vince.
And we'll see you next time.